Hello and welcome to Class 10 History online video lectures. Dear children, today we will start a new chapter, but a very important chapter, which is the Second World War. Before I begin with the explanation on Second World War, there are few points that you will have to note or you will have to keep in mind, and that is number one. With regard to the Second World War, number one, it is the change in your syllabus. Okay. So, as per the reduced syllabus which has come to us from the council, there are only few topics that you will have to study. You don't have to study all the topics which are there in the chapter. Only few things. Okay. So, let me just read it out to you. From the Second World War chapter, we will have to study only the factors. Only the factors. And which are the factors? That I will just read it out. The first one is Treaty of Versailles. You have to study Treaty of Versailles. Second, rise of dictatorships. Third, Japan's invasion in China. Japan's invasion in China. Fourth, failure of the League of Nations. And the last or the final topic will be number 5, that is Hitler's invasion in Poland. That is it. Only 5 factors for the Second World War. Then the second point you need to note is every year you do get questions from Second World War. Sometimes the questions come in structured portion, the long answer section, where it is clubbed together. It means it's merged. You find a mixed bag of questions. Like from the Second and the First World War, answer these questions. With reference to UNO and Second World War, answer these questions. With reference to Second World War and probably, the agencies of UNO, answer these questions. So, therefore, it comes as a mixed bag. Some of the popular questions will be any 3 reasons behind the Second World War. How did the Treaty of Versailles affect Germany and Italy? Alright. You might also be asked, because there might be now many questions in the previous years which could be irrelevant to you, alright. So, keeping that thing in mind, please study this particular chapter. Let us quickly begin with Second World War, dealing with the first factor, which is the Treaty of Versailles. Now, you will find this in your textbook, page 221. Page 221, you will find this topic on Second World War. The war, which was started by Adolf Hitler on the 1st of September 1939, was quite similar to the First World War because both the wars were fought as a result of selfish diplomacy and treaty of obligations towards smaller powers. In both cases, the alliance of Britain, France, Russia, United States fought against Germany, Central Europe, and both the wars created the problem of reconstruction and rehabilitation and established an organization for world peace. The Second World War took place due to the following causes. So, let's come to the first cause, which is the Treaty of Versailles. It is believed that the Treaty of Versailles contained the germs of the Second World War. It was supposed to be a treaty which ended the First World War. It was supposed to be a peace treaty. But this Treaty of Versailles only led to more problems in the future. In the Treaty of Versailles, element of dictation was apparent. It was humiliating, especially for the Germans and Italians. It was more like a dominating factor for these powers who had lost the First World War. Germany was ill-treated and forced to sign the treaty. Germany lost her territories. So, if you are asking about the injustice of the treaty, Why we think it was humiliating? These are the reasons why. Germany lost her territories, her navy was destroyed, army was reduced to only 1 lakh, and she was deprived of her coal and steel resources. Germany was forced to pay a huge war indemnity which was beyond her capacity, and this humiliation evoked a spirit of revenge in Hitler, and he repudiated the Treaty of Versailles. But the Germans, they not only had to pay a huge amount of war compensation because they were declared guilty of starting the war, they also lost many of their territories, a lot of colonies. It was divided among the victorious Allied powers. In terms of mineral resources also, many of these industrial areas were now occupied by France, by Belgium. She had to supply coal and iron to France for many years, almost 15 years. On top of that, Germany also had to demilitarize a certain region, and these were the causes behind which later Hitler emerged as a leader of Germany. And the first thing that he did was he repudiated, he went against the Treaty of Versailles and declared it, condemned it, and also made it responsible for the poor economic conditions of the Germans. In terms of Italy now, we have looked at it from terms of German side, but in Italy, the Treaty of Versailles also had serious impact. For example, the Treaty of Versailles caused much disappointment among the Italians. Italy fought the First World War on the side of the Allies. After the war, the Italians felt they were not adequately compensated. For Italy, it's not that she was declared guilty, but she was expecting a lot for supporting the Allied powers during the First World War. But after the war came to an end, she did not find that she was adequately compensated by the peace settlement in Paris for her contribution or her efforts in the war. So this caused the disappointment. They criticized the government for not taking a strong attitude towards the Allied powers. Large sections of Italians felt that there was an urgent need to develop a strong government with a national outlook. That's why if Hitler came in Germany, Mussolini came in Italy. And again, with the same feeling that Italy has been tricked or it has been duped, not given adequate territories, not being compensated well enough. And this was, I think, Treaty of Versailles was one major factor which led to the rise of dictatorship both in Italy as well as in Germany. Now, let us look at the second factor, all right? Now that we have discussed the first factor, that is Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, okay? Let us look at the next factor. The next factor, if you look at, will be, all right, the rise of dictatorship. Dissatisfaction with the Treaty of Versailles led to rise of dictatorship in Europe because after the First World War, a new type of government was visible. Democracy, they felt, was not the answer. Earlier it was monarchy, if you remember, right? Once upon a time, you were ruled by kings and queens. So we call that a monarchy. Then many people were dissatisfied with the rule of the kings and queens, and they wanted a new rule by the people, of the people, for the people, where the people would decide things for themselves, and this was called democracy. Democracy also came up. Then we had the system of elections, but the First World War also showed us that democracy is not the answer. So the third new trend that emerged in Europe was that of a dictatorial form of government where we have the system of one party, one leader. This emerged in Russia in the form of Stalin. The leader was Stalin, the dictator. In Spain, you had General Franco. In Italy, you had Mussolini. And in Germany, you had Hitler. Then it says here, Mussolini established a fascist regime or a rule in 1922, and almost after 10 years, Hitler established a Nazi regime in 1933. The rapid expansion of totalitarian regimes and their ambitious plans. When the dictators came, all right, to power, the first thing that they desired was one party, one government, one policy. They also thought of condemning, not thought of, but they did condemn democracy. They were anti-communist. They wanted to follow aggressive expansionist policy, and these ambitious plans were the reasons behind the Second World War. The war was a conflict between two ideologies of democracy and dictatorship. Russia, Germany, Italy stood for totalitarian state. Totalitarian meaning where you have one party, one leader. No multi-party system. And one-party government denounced democracy, fundamental rights of the people. This was a serious challenge to the democratic nations of Western Europe. Mussolini described this conflict of ideologies in the words, and he said, "The struggle between the two worlds can permit no compromise, either we or they." That shows the determination, the ambitious nature of the dictators. And because they wanted to take revenge, especially Hitler wanted to take revenge for what happened to him what happened to Germany after the First World War. Italy also the same thing, the kind of disappointment that they had. This was another factor which led to the Second World War. In my next class, I will discuss the other three factors. Thank you for watching.